Hi, Jewel. Good afternoon.
Hi, Yvonne. Good afternoon.
Happy New Year. So good to see you. You're looking lovely.
Likewise. Yeah, so are you. So are you. And Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you, Jewel. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to join us. We are so grateful to have you in 2022.
Yay.
And God bless you so much for your contributions in 2021 and 2020 as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a blessing, I tell you. It's a great
discussion on managing grief and loss. And I think that it will be so useful to think through grieving, productive grieving, in such a way that helps an individual to go through the grieving process in a very productive way, And today I'm very happy and quite excited. Happy and excited to have you join me to talk about grief and loss, and essentially looking at the salient pointers. What people should look at and some of the quick strategies they can pick along that journey and, just run along with healthy grieving. In your estimation, last year or in our previous video, we talked about grief and loss. And one of the strategies you talked about was on, grieving and looking at the adaptive coping strategies like prayer, having physical support. In your own estimation, the first point is, how do we grieve during seasonal moments?
In 2017, I lost my husband quite suddenly. And I always describe it as one of the lowest points of my life.
Right.
But yet it was also a time I believe I experienced the grace of God on an unprecedented level.
Right.
And so since then, whatever it is that helped me through that process and continues to help me as I carry on in life, I'm very passionate about sharing with other people. So yeah, that's how come I wrote When You Lose a Loved One, and also wrote He Lifts Up My Head. Yes. Right. So that's why I'm talking to Yvonne about these subjects.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to your question, right. Yeah. To your question, I was just saying that, what you're referring to is what is referred to by most people as holiday grief. Grief. And usually these holidays like Easter, Christmas, Valentine's Day, sometimes they will not be holidays, but days that are directly significant to the person you've lost, such as maybe their birthday, or a wedding anniversary, or even sometimes the day they died. All those days that are significant to the person, often along with these normal holidays, often come with some sorrow after the person is gone. And that's because usually these days, while the person was here, were times when you'd meet, family meets, friends meet, we spend time together, we have fun together, we do things, we create memories together, And so when those days roll around and that person is no longer there, there's a certain vacuum. You've been feeling the vacuum all along, but you feel it even more acutely during these seasons that are, significant. And so if it is not managed properly, if holiday grief is not managed properly, what will happen is that all these days that should have been opportunities for joy and celebration and happiness and togetherness, they'll become, days that are overshadowed by gloom and grief and heaviness and all that, and so they will cease to give you life as they were intended to. And so that's why it's important that we look at how to manage holiday grief, as part of healing from losses and all that. Yeah.
Important to talk about holiday grief, especially because I know we just finished celebrating Christmas and we are celebrating the new year. We are still in the new year mode. And you find that these occasions, and soon we'll be delving into the Easter, and the other festive occasions. And these occasions are known as family occasions. When I say family occasions, moments for families to come together, bond, connect, reconnect. There's always that trace of seeming joy and happiness and connection and all that. And I ask this question because I think that especially, I lost my dad last year, and I mean, this Christmas was really, really, it was quite a challenging one for me. And even within the ecstasy or joy and, peace and celebration and all the festive occasions, I found myself feeling that sense of loss and loneliness and bits and pieces of on mourning. And I thought that was so much related to so many other people who during that season maybe seem happy. I mean, they seem joyous, and there's no one to share that pain. And there's that expectation of go out of it, everyone is moving on, why are you crawling around that? And from an experiential view, I want to understand from you, especially from a Christian perspective, is it okay to have that experience? And how would people manage the gloominess that comes along with bits and pieces on grief and loss during seasonal occasions?
Right. So I'll start off by saying that it's normal, okay? It's normal, and particularly within the first year after loss. I mean, that's when you're going to see the first Christmas without the person, the first birthday without the person.
Right.
All those firsts, they can be very difficult.
Right.
And it is normal to feel your loss very acutely, especially on those firsts. So I want to just establish that it's a normal emotional response.
Right.
It is telling you that something isn't right. And so you need not be ashamed of yourself if you find yourself, weeping or sad, the first birthday he's not here or she's not here, or the first Christmas you're spending without them and all that. It's normal, okay?
Right.
Now, I want to say also that like every wound, this emotional hurt needs to heal, or given the proper care and attention, it will heal, such that if things go on normally, or if you handle things properly, the second year afterwards, the third year, the fourth year, things should get progressively better. It shouldn't get worse. If it's getting worse, such that 2 years, 3 years, years down the line, you're even heavier than you were the first year afterwards. That means something hasn't gone right. There's a complication somewhere. Okay. And so we need to deal with it. We need to, face it and say that, look, these days are always going to remind me of such and such a person. So what am I going to do about it? And that brings me to my first point, which is being proactive about those days and seasons, being proactive. If you sit knowing very well that, 4 days from now or a week from now will be so and so's birthday, or will be Christmas, the first Christmas, or even the second Christmas without the person. You in fact, sometimes as the day is approaching, there's a certain dread, you are so aware of it, and you are just wondering how you're going to cope, how you're going to manage. You are so aware of the fact that this is going to be a first Christmas or another Christmas or another Valentine's or whatever without such and such a person. You will know. And so the first point is to be proactive about it. If you do not take charge of the situation and decide that, first accept that he's gone or she's gone, there's nothing you can do about it. But the day must not become lost, or you must not lose the blessing of that day along with the person. You need not double the loss like that. And so being proactive about how now you are going to spend the day without the person in a life-giving way is absolutely critical. It is taking charge of your life. Yeah, if you sit and wait, you'll find that the day will come and you'll find yourself brooding and reliving memories, and it would have been like this, and it would have been like that, and it would have been like this, and you'll find yourself spiraling into self-pity and sorrow and gloom because you feel like, the day will never be complete because this person is not there with you, okay? But, for me, realizing that every day is a gift from God, and that if he has you alive, also remembering that your loved one is not honored in any way when you spend every significant day, buried in sorrow and heaviness over them. Not want you heavy-hearted every Christmas day, every Easter, because they are not there. It's no loved one, no person who really loves you wants that for you, So things in mind. Every day is a gift from God. If you're alive, it's for a purpose. Number 3, your loved one would not want you sitting heavy-hearted every, should motivate you, okay? Should motivate you to decide on, coming up with a new tradition, a new way of celebrating the day, and the day. Decide that, okay, we used to do it this way when we were here. We can't do it that way anymore. So how are we going to do it now, right? And then come up with something, start planning advance what you're going to do on that day, and then do it. Sometimes you'll be doing it and memories will come and you'll be crying, but you just keep doing it. It will become the new normal for you with time, okay? And another thing I also want to say is it's important on such days to also reach out to other people, okay? It is a highly
people who are grieving, Jewel. People who are grieving.
Yeah, it could be people who are grieving. It could also be people who are in need. Okay, it doesn't have to be necessarily others who are grieving. If you feel led to go to somebody else like that, is wonderful. But I just want to say, anybody that you can be a blessing to, anybody you can be a blessing to, reach out to that person. And then go and be a blessing to the person, whether it's just spending time, taking them a gift, visiting them. I mean, reach out to somebody and bless the person. It's important because when you do that, your loss makes you feel deficient. Your loss makes you feel like you've lost something, okay? And if you dwell on it, you almost begin to operate like you have nothing. Like you almost operate out of that place of deficiency. But when you are able to go to another person and give to the person and make the person's day better, you realize that all is not lost after all. Okay, it's a powerful way of reminding you that you still have life and you still have something that is worthwhile. You understand what I mean? It's a very powerful, a very powerfully therapeutic thing to reach out to others during those what do you call it, seasons.
Right.
And I think there's a spiritual principle to behind it, that as you water others, you find yourself being watered. As you give to others, you find yourself even being, what do you call it? Also being blessed. Yeah,
Right.
also being blessed. So those would be, and then I think the third thing I'll add is that you should give it time. Okay, don't be annoyed if the first attempt at trying to spend it in a new way is, you know, maybe doesn't go too well, or you find yourself being sad at certain, I mean, give yourself time, give yourself grace, and then just keep forging ahead. Just keep forging ahead.
Right, right. Jewel, I always love talking to you, honestly. I think, you know, you are the grief therapist for not just Ghana, but the whole world. Functional grieving, I mean, healthy grieving. And it makes so much sense to begin to understand their journey and how they are able to overcome the barriers and the rigorous processes, and how they are able to rebuild life after grief. There's one aspect of grief that says that you never get over it, and you know, you tend to carry the pain along in a functional way. So when you talked about, you know, going out and connecting with people, and I asked if these were people who were grieving, and you mentioned that not necessarily, you know, people who are grieving. I quickly connected it to grieving with purpose, you know, where you in an outward manner, you try to find space for your pain, productive space for your pain, in a way that relieves other people of their burdens, their heads, and helps you cope properly, you know, in essence. 2 days ago, I met an old school friend, and very young woman. She had also lost her husband, and she just mentioned to me, "Oh, you know, I lost my husband about 3 years ago." And I said, "Really? No, I never knew about that." And then we began that whole conversation on grief and loss. And I said to her, have you watched Jewel's videos? She said, "No." I said, "Go look for her on Facebook and follow up on YouTube on her videos," because I found that she had very challenging thoughts on grief. I think at one point she had mentioned that, okay, so my husband was a sickler and had died, you know, so somehow knew he was going to die at a point, and so had kind of prepared us on that whole journey. And I said, you know, that's fine, and death will come. And she also mentioned that death will come anyway for all of us. And I said, look, that is true, but there's an aspect of grief and loss that if care is not taken, you begin to hold some thought processes which may not be useful for your own functioning, and even for your children as well. Death will come anyway. Mentally healing through grief and loss, it's important to help you redirect some of these conversations in a way that progresses your grieving journey productively, you know. So not just about coping, but even the thought processes about it, and how we tend to relay the idea of grief and loss for ourselves and our kids as well. I know in developed countries, we have child bereavement support groups and all that, even to attend to different milestone individuals within that space. So if a child is grieving, it means that, you know, one may require special skill sets to help them crystallize the ideas on grief and loss at that specific stage, you know. I think that's so important. So the points you mentioned are excellent, very, very excellent. You know, reaching out, giving it time. The idea that, you know, not time in itself heals, but even within time, you find proper coping strategies, you know, reorienting your thought processes about your loss, and trying to find very eventful ways of rechanneling your pain and making it very useful. So I'm very excited you indicate these points, and I'll encourage everyone who hasn't read your book on When You Lose a Loved One and Then He Lifts Up My Head to quickly get it on Jewel. Where can they be found?
So there, I have copies, hard copies at the Charismatic Evangelistic Ministry Bookshop. It's at North Legon.
Right.
Yes.
And then online
also,
too. I know you can order.
Yeah, on Amazon. That's Kindle. And then also, I mean, you can DM me on Facebook, and then, you know, arrangements can be made.
Right. Jewel, what would be the 3 things not to tell a grieving person in this new year? What 3 things would you advocate for anyone, you know, in trying to manage this whole process, not to verbalize or spew it out in this new year? I'm asking this question because, especially when my father died, I found people asking me very interesting questions, which got me upset, you know, and I think we'll have a whole video on that as well. Questions like, so your father is dead, what killed him? Why haven't you been to his house? You know, and I mean, that got me off. We've been to your father's house, you are not there. Why haven't you been there? And I mean, this was at the height of my pain, you know, and my whole grieving process. What would be the 3 things not to ask anyone who is grieving from your experiential view and from maybe biblical understanding and all the advocacy that you do around grief and loss, and taking our context into consideration? What would be the 3 main things not to ask a grieving person?
Okay, so I might not be able to give 3 exact statements.
Right, that's fine.
I'm going to talk about, you know, the attitude that sort of fuels some of these comments.
Right.
Okay, the attitude that fuels the comments, and that is that you know, impatience with people who are grieving. Okay, right. And expecting that, oh, by this time you should have done this. By this time you should be doing that. Haven't you seen how this person has handled it? You know, that impatience. And unfortunately, it usually comes from people who have not really been very supportive. Okay, right. People who have not, you know, been there for you, supported you, right. Prayed. They've not been there for you. Right. And yes, they feel like, you know, you should get your act together and, you know, get on with it and move. Why are you still, why are you sad about this one? Why are you still doing this? Why haven't you done that? When are you doing this? And a whole lot. It's from an attitude of impatience. Right. And it is wrong. It is wrong. It doesn't do any help. It doesn't you know, encourage of impatience. It's not going to get the attention. You might, you know, rather it will further push them into that dysfunctional way of handling their grief. So if you really want to help, if you really want to support somebody, look, I think we spoke about this on the other our last recording, but if you really want to support, pray for them, be there for them, support them. You know, ask them if you can do something for them. Ask them if you could pray for them. Invite them to, you know, parties or whatever you are doing with your kids or whatever. Involve them. Send them gifts. Send them support. If you establish yourself as somebody who really cares, and they're even handling their grief in a dysfunctional way, they are more likely to listen to you because they know care. You know, there's this popular saying that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. So first, demonstrate that care. You know, before you go, why aren't you doing this? When are you going to do this? It's high time you did that. It does far more harm than good. So it expresses itself in many different statements, but this is the attitude that I think, I mean, we should try to do away with in 2022.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jewel. Thank you so much. If someone has lost a loved one recently, what would be your one word for them, 1 or 2 words for them for this new year? They just lost a loved one. What would be the 1 or 2 words for them?
I'll say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. And I just want you to know that God is described as a God of all comfort. All comfort. For me, that is one thing that I can never get over. All comfort. It doesn't matter how deep the pain is. It doesn't matter the extent to which your life has been devastated by this loss. He is a God of all comfort, and he's able to reach you in those places that nobody else, you know, understands. Nobody else can reach. Absolutely. And so I'll just say that, yeah, give that hurt to God, you know. Turn to God, not away from him in hurt and anger and all that. Turn to him with all those hurts, with all those pains, with all those, whatever it is that you're going through. He's the man of sorrows. Jesus Christ is described as the man of sorrows, acquainted with the deepest grief. And so he knows, he understands. And I'm a living witness that he's able to heal you to the uttermost and able to transform the ashes that you find yourself with into beauty. Yeah. So that's what I'll say. I'm really sorry. And I'll just say that I highly recommend God as the one who will, you know, walk with you through this valley, heal you through it all, and give you a new lease on life. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I read your book on when you lose a loved one, or I think he lifts up my head, one of it, I think you had indicated that it was the first time during that grief and loss process where you realized that the cross was a symbol of hope as well. In terms of not just a symbol of salvation, but the cross as a symbol of hope, that even in our pain, in our grief, and, you know, with the heaviness that comes along with that experience, it's useful to begin to focus on the cross because it's the symbol of that hope. I mean, the very existential hope, the only existential hope for the believer. And I want to say thank you so much for sharing that knowledge with us. I think within that cloud of heaviness, we tend to forget the emblem of the cross and what it means in relation to our pain. So I want to say thank you so much for that revelation. And I'll encourage everyone who hasn't read your book. I know there's a third one coming soon. So please, if you haven't read the first 2, then you are lost, because as we know, grief is an inevitable part of this life. Grief and loss, and we emphasized that in our last video. So it will be useful now to begin to equip yourself on what may be required to go through any process of grief. You don't have to wait to lose a loved one. It could be a job opportunity. It could be your expectations for the year not being met. It could be some other uncertainties and all that. So I would really encourage you to read Jewel's book. And Jewel, want to say thank you so much. We know 2022, you have a lot for us. What would be your one word for our audience? One word for them. in relation to grief and loss?
Oh, it's a new year. It's a new season. I mean, God says, behold, I do a new thing. Behold, I do a new thing. Open your eyes and see, I'm doing a new thing. As good as what was lost was, God says, I'm doing a new thing. I think that's just what I want to say. It's a new thing. Yeah.
Jewel, thank you so much. Can you briefly talk about your social media handles?
Yes. I'm on Facebook as Jewel Ewoade. Ewoade is spelled Ewoade, Jewel Ewoade. I'm also on Instagram, same handle, Jewel Ewoade. And then on YouTube, I haven't been there in a while, but I'm going to get back there this year.
Please come
So those
soon.
are my three major, my three major social media handles. Yes.
Jewel, thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you.
My pleasure, Yvonne.
And have a good year.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to more discussions this year, as usual.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.